What is up, Nerf Nation? I'm Naptown Nerf, and today we're going to do a review on the Artifact Hunter Kit for the Longshot. Now, this kit has been out for quite a while, and it's been adapted a little bit over the years. I actually bought the Gen 1 version of their kit for the Longshot. I don't think it was called the Hunter Kit because it didn't come with all the parts. It just came with a pusher piece and the barrel, and I believe it had a breech part too. I can't really remember, it's been so long ago, but that kit had a couple issues, but this one is much better. Comes with many more parts, and I'm pretty excited to try it out finally. So this kit is designed only to fire half-length darts, which is probably the biggest drawback of it, and that's pretty much the case with a lot of these long shot kits that are coming out. There's quite a few coming out on the market pretty soon here, but Artifact was the first really to do something quite like this with this pusher kind of design, and then make a kit that was mass produced with that. And that is a great way to drop in and get a really good seal and performance without doing a full custom brass breech. So that's really awesome. Unfortunately, though, you cannot shoot long darts, so I don't have a need to do that very much. So that's kind of why it's taken me so long to get around to this. But I'm excited to throw this into a blaster and review it for you guys. So let's kind of go over what we get here. We have the plunger head that will go on your your long shot plunger rod that you will already have. Then you have this back piece, which has some holes in it that are kind of referred to as speed holes, and those will allow the plunger head in theory to move quicker. So that's really cool, and that as obviously your spring rest. This is your breech, is what I like to consider it, because that's where the pusher actually goes and puts the dart into the breech. So this is your breech. Pretty nice piece, fully metal. Obviously all this stuff is aluminum. It is all CNC'd, so that's pretty cool. And then you have your pusher piece along with your bolt cup, and this unscrews, which is really nice, so you can maintenance it very easily. So that's really cool, and I really like that about it. That's one downside to a lot of brass breeches, is once you have this set in your plunger tube, you cannot take it apart and do any sort of maintenance to it. So that's really cool, and I like that part of the design a lot. And then this is our barrel that actually sits in here, and this is actually what creates your seal, because this will fit right into here and create your hopefully 100% seal. So that's really cool. And then we have this part, which it connects into your NFstrike attachment and keeps this barrel basically in place. So that's pretty neat. I will also be using the Artifact bolt sled. Now this I purchased myself. All this stuff I actually received for free for review from NFstrike. So it's really cool that NFstrike has so many things on their site that you can easily obtain and not have to go through like Taobao like we used to. This kit is actually very hard to get. Actually, it's very sought after and is often out of stock. And so if you can't find it on other sites, definitely check out NFstrike, because they often have these things in stock, unlike other retailers. So that's really nice. And they also sell this metal bolt sled, but this is a separate piece. Okay, you guys, we're going to go ahead and throw the Hunter Kit into this original blue Longshot that I thrifted not too long ago. It's in actually really good shape, so should be a pretty cool candidate for it. So let's go ahead and break this Longshot down and install this thing. Alright, so we got her open. This thing actually looks pretty darn good considering its age. I mean, I'm not joking, this thing is pretty immaculate. Let's go ahead and take out everything we don't need internally and put these things inside. Alright you guys, I pulled out a 18 kg turf spring that I plan on using in this kit. I haven't used an 18 kg turf spring before, so I'm pretty excited to use that. That should give us some incredible power, and obviously depending on what spring you put in this kit is going to be a big factor on what kind of performance you get out of it. So, you know, 16 kg is pretty common, so we're just going to up that a little bit and see what we can get. So I've isolated a lot of the parts that we need. You will need your trigger or an upgraded trigger. Artifact makes pretty cool upgraded metal triggers. Then you will need your plunger rod that you will put your plunger head onto. You will take the O-ring and the screw from your original plunger head, and you'll use that unless you have another O-ring that you like better. And then obviously you will need your plunger tube from your Longshot or a upgraded or different plunger tube. I think Artifact makes a plunger tube also. And obviously you'll need your spring of choice. And also you'll need a catch, or your stock catch or an upgraded catch. So let's go ahead and put this thing together. Alright, so that's finished. I actually had an Artifact O-ring that actually gives you a really good seal without adding any sort of electrical tape. That's like really good. You may need to add a little electrical tape to get your seal, but obviously if you're using this kit, you probably have some experience modding and you kind of know that trick. We probably will use a little bit for this one because this is not quite as good. It's a little looser than I would like in there. So I'm going to add a little electrical tape underneath this O-ring. You also could use Teflon tape. I like electrical tape because I can get a exact cut, well, close to exact, to fit perfectly inside there, and there's no excess stuff like that. So we will go ahead and remove this O-ring, hopefully carefully. That is really, really nice. So I just put two loops with E-tape there, and that worked really, really well. Now we will go ahead and lubricate everything up and put this plunger tube together. So I've gone ahead and cleaned out all the lubricant that was already in the plunger tube. This is quite old and there wasn't actually much in there, but it's good to go ahead and clean that out. And then we'll put some of the super lube. Go ahead and put it on here. Alright, I custom made myself a little donut pad there to go in the little hole there that they have for you very nicely, and then we'll go ahead and lubricate that O-ring and lock this thing down. Alright you guys, now it's time to connect this to here, but you're not going to just screw it on. I would highly recommend using some Teflon tape because that's going to give this a much better seal and hopefully keep it from unscrewing itself, which I hear is an issue. I've heard some people actually glue this to here, which I really don't want to do because although maybe like super glue or something like that would possibly be able to be broken, so you could maintenance it later on, it would be very difficult, and I'd rather not have to do that. So we're going to try just Teflon tape, and I think that should help us out. Next next we need to connect our barrel into our breech system here, and it is actually pretty important to get this the right length, so we will probably have to put it into the blaster to do that. But first I'm going to guess where it needs to be by pushing this all the way in and then putting it to the front part here so it can't go any further. So that should be good. And then we will lock it down with the little Allen wrench here and the little nuts screw things that they gave you. I'm gonna get that tight, but not really tight yet, just so I don't, but I think that should be pretty good, hopefully. It looks like it's in the right spot. That is good. And I will make sure this is really tight. Alright, so that should sit flush and we have it there. So that's awesome. So the last thing we're going to do before we put all the stuff back in is lubricate this O-ring. You want to lubricate all the O-rings and try to get the best seal possible, because this, where this connects in here, is probably where you will lose your air if you don't have 100% seal. That's probably where it'll be leaking. So we're going to make sure we get that lubricated up, and then we're good to put it all back together. So everything's in place. I actually decided to go with this artifact trigger that I had, just because it's such a beefy spring. It's nice to have that feel with a full metal trigger. So I went ahead and put that in there. Upgraded the catch spring, which usually you'll get a catch spring with your main spring. But yeah, pretty simple, pretty easy to put together. This part of the process was really good. We will definitely have to assemble it and test it to make sure everything is performing up to par. Let's go ahead and put the other half of the shell back on and see how she performs. Alright, you guys, so I had to tweak this quite a bit actually to get it to 100% seal, and I'll show you that it is 100% seal. One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So pretty darn good seal. What I figured out I really needed to do, I actually went in and changed the O-ring back to the black one, because I think that red one was for the alpha kit and I didn't want to use that in here. So I had to put a little electrical tape underneath the new plunger head there. And then I also added a little electrical tape under the front O-ring, just because I wanted that seal just a little tighter. But the real thing that was causing me from getting that 100% seal was actually the screw that bolts the plunger head onto the rod. And all I did was put some Teflon tape onto that threading and then screw it in, and I had my 100% seal. So highly recommend doing that on all your Longshot modifications, even if they aren't a full sealed system. That's not going to hurt you at all. So I would definitely recommend doing that, and it's pretty easy. So let's go ahead and put some shots of the chronograph. Sorry about the wind, but I do have, I think, 10 prototype darts loaded up there, so we'll put a few of those across the chronograph and see what kind of FPS we're getting. .174, 200, 204, 173, 164, 213. That dart blew up. 206, 152, 159, and that's it. I'm going to go ahead and put a few worker darts in there. Those numbers were a little lower than what I was getting actually before I even got the 100% seal, so that's kind of strange. It might have to do with the wind, or it could just have to do with what darts I was using. Alright, so worker darts are very, very tight into this, I think. So they do work, but I think the prototype darts are a little bit better. We'll go ahead and put a couple of shots. I got 2 of them loaded up here. We'll see what they do. 198. Oh, that was pretty good. Duplicate 198. So right at 200 with worker darts, and the added accuracy might be an advantage. I do feel like they're a little bit tighter though when you push them in, just because of the tip design on the worker dart. But yeah, I think this kit is solid. All right, you guys, had to come back inside because that wind out there is horrible. The weather here has just been pretty horrendous. We had snow on the ground yesterday, and it's like the second or third day of spring now, which is kind of crazy here in Indiana. But wanted to give you guys my final thoughts on the product. The Hunter kit is a great kit. I was kind of expecting a little higher FPS numbers, and I think we were losing a little bit of the FPS mainly because of the wind out there. I was getting between like 200 and 220 indoors when I was using my lighting kit. So I think that's about the range you're in. Now, I was kind of expecting a little bit more than that, though, with an 18 kg spring, but pretty close to that. I was kind of expecting more like 230 or so, but nevertheless, I think it's performing pretty well. The seal is definitely there when you've done the tweaks that I mentioned. When somebody creates a kit that you can just drop in and get 100% seal out right off the bat, I'll be truly shocked. I have not seen one of those yet, but very happy with the kit. A aluminum CNC'd kit that's fairly affordable is really nice, and it's nice that you can get the main part without the bolt sled, and so it doesn't cost so much more. And then if you want the aluminum bolt sled, you can purchase that separately. I think that's nice. Now, probably the biggest downside to this kit, and it goes for pretty much all kits like this, is the fact that the barrel length is set. I think we'd get quite a bit better performance if we had a longer barrel, and if you upgrade the spring even more than this, then you definitely will want a longer barrel, but that option is really not available, and you have to have this barreling material to create that seal. So that is really the biggest fault of kits like this with that pusher style breech. As long as you're okay with kind of maxing out your FPS around that 220 or so range, I think this kit is a great option. Big thank you to NFstrike again for sending me this kit for review. I'll definitely put a link in the description box to where you can purchase this kit from NFstrike.com. They have both this version and one for the Xzeus 2. If you're looking at putting one of these in the Xzeus 2, you have to modify this version to get it to fit into that. So I think they've created a second version so it fits into that without modification, which is really nice. So just know which shell you want to put it in, and you can choose which one you want. I really hope one day we'll get a kit similar to this that will be able to shoot full-length darts with 100% seal, but right now there really isn't anything like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review and installation guide for the Hunter Kit by Artifact. Smash that like button, please subscribe, and as always, peace out.